Hello and welcome to the Nation Jandela. I'm Jessie Chahel. Today we look at MyDigital and its blueprint, which is said to be a game changer for our country, for our nation, Malaysia. And my guest is none other than the chairman of MCMC, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. Doctor, welcome back. And once again, I look forward to our discussion. We've had a couple of these interviews before, and each time you really were able to answer some of the very important and I guess at this point of time questions that are perhaps on many people's minds. Let's first look at what happened last Friday. That was a launch of MyDigital, the blueprint. As we move forward, why do you believe and why do you think it necessary for the Rakyat to embrace digital economy besides the new norm? But why?
I think if you realize the evolution of men and the businesses today, you realize that more and more people are actually going online. Okay, when you go online, what happens is that the world is your oyster, okay? And if you're not part and parcel of that world, you will be left behind. It's as simple as that. So the only way for us to be part of that whole, if you want, ocean, we need to then embrace the ability to be in that space. We need to be able to swim in that space, and thereof, hence we need to be a lot more digitally active. Of course, we need to be digitally literate, and we must be well connected. Okay, so it's not about I know who, but it's connected into the system. Okay, and hence having something as huge and as impactful as the MyDigital blueprint, it is a way for us Malaysians to then get onto the bandwagon in our own way, but all leading to the same destination.
Okay, so perhaps you could further expound on the blueprint itself. Besides its significance, what do we see on the blueprint?
I think if you look at it from the technical aspect, the blueprint has got 6 pillars. Okay, talk about infrastructure, about innovation. It talks about skill sets, a whole lot of stuff. All right. Now, I think at the end of the day, the layman will say, "Yeah, it's all these words." Okay, what does it mean to me as a person? Number one, if it says we need to have better infrastructure, what does it mean to? Would it mean to me as a person? It means I can be connected faster, anywhere. And when I get connected, I can actually get to a lot of content, preferably local content, but it's okay because I will learn new things if I get non-local content. All right, that's the first thing. So that's me. And when you talk about infrastructure, then you say, okay, what about skill set? When you have new information, you learn new things. When you learn new things, you get another level of skills which can be used. If before you may not know how to bake a cake, for example, and because you have new knowledge, you try it out.
But doctor, is it as seamless as that, especially when you look at the different segments of society and when you break that down by sector or industries as well?
Of course, there will always be a stratification of people with skill sets, okay? And even today, with or without digital, what happens is that we stratify ourselves simply because of our qualification and our opportunities that we have in life, okay? And but what happens with internet is that it is a leveler. So someone who may not have the right degree could still earn a good income. I like to use the example of a YouTuber. Okay, you need to actually have a PhD to be a YouTuber? No, you don't. What you need is a basic sense of creativity and ability to tell a story that entices people to look at it. Yeah? Okay? And if you do that, and then you get a lot of eyeballs, and people pay to watch that content, and suddenly you find, hey, I may not even have to finish my school. Okay, of course, it's always good to have a plan B, so you can't be a YouTuber for the rest of your life, right? But my point I'm trying to make is that if you have skill sets generate, demand, and with demand comes income. Okay, so that is why with digital, all that is all about digital economy, and I'm just talking a small fraction of what the whole digital economy is all about. There's loads of stuff that you can talk about, but I'm sure it will take more than just the 15 minutes that we have.
That's right. But of course, as to go back to what you say, it is an ocean and every drop counts. And what the blueprint will do is really open up and grow, this area where it will also provide opportunities for people within the network, and as the network is extended for everyone's benefit as well. Let's go back to the announcement that was made by the Prime Minister just less than a week ago. It is comprehensive and it is inclusive. But from the layman's perspective, what can we really expect if we could pin down some particular milestones or some particular achievements or deliverables, as they would say?
Right. Okay. I think I just take a step back. Okay. People say, okay, what's this blueprint all about? What's MyDigital? The reality is that Malaysia, as a nation, we actually went down the path of a digital economy when it was fairly nascent at that point in time. In 1987, we had the multimedia super corridor. But don't forget, our jump-off point then was that we were not even ICT savvy.
But that was such a flagship
Yes, it was a flagship.
initiative.
The flagship was actually what one would call today we would call a pillar. Okay, the flagship of telemedicine. Does it cover the whole of healthcare? Probably not. So only certain facets of healthcare. You talk about the multi-purpose card. It's just one particular thing, but there are a lot of other things that happens. Okay, so we were, if you want, creating the point for the economy to be catalytic within the ICT space.
And I'm going to hold you on that note as we take a quick break. Do join us as we come back right here on The Nation Jendela as we talk about the MyDigital blueprint, the game changer for our nation.
MyDigital, satu visi menuju ke arah Malaysia Digital. Rangka tindakan ekonomi digital Malaysia bermatlamat membangunkan sosio-ekonomi yang inklusif, bertanggungjawab dan mampan selari dengan wawasan kemakmuran bersama 2030. Dari segi infrastruktur, Malaysia mempunyai 95.3% liputan jalur lebar. Nilai pasaran e-dagang di Malaysia telah mencapai jumlah 16 bilion ringgit pada tahun 2019. Beberapa perusahaan mikro, kecil dan sederhana berjaya meraih manfaat melalui e-dagang. Ini merupakan hasil daripada pelbagai inisiatif dan program kerajaan. Seiring dengan kemajuan teknologi, inisiatif Jendela diperkenalkan. Teknologi 5G akan meningkatkan kualiti sambungan dan capaian untuk semua, antaranya pembelajaran dalam talian. Bagi pelajar yang akan memasuki alam pekerjaan, pengetahuan dan kemahiran digital akan membantu mereka berjaya dalam ekonomi yang baharu ini. Hasilnya, ekonomi digital yang semakin rancak akan mewujudkan lebih peluang pekerjaan dan juga kerjaya baharu. Perniagaan akan berkembang. Internet benda, IoT, mendorong perniagaan menjadi lebih inovatif dan produktif. Data raya, blok rantai dan kecerdasan buatan AI adalah antara inovasi teknologi yang mula digunakan perusahaan mikro, kecil dan sederhana. Perubahan paling ketara ialah peralihan kepada kerajaan digital yang lebih cekap dan berpaksikan rakyat. Penstoran awal memudahkan pencarian dan penyimpanan data yang terjamin dan selamat. Dalam jangka masa 5 hingga 10 tahun, matlamat MyDigital adalah untuk membentuk Malaysia sebagai negara berpendapatan tinggi yang dipacu teknologi termaju. Rakyat akan menerima manfaat dari segi sosio-ekonomi dan kelestarian alam sekitar. MyDigital merupakan permulaan ke arah Malaysia menjadi peneraju serantau dalam ekonomi digital. Marilah kita bersama-sama menjayakannya.
Welcome back to The Nation Jendela. I'm Jessie Chahal. If you've just joined us, my guest today is the chairman of MCMC, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. We're talking about the MyDigital blueprint, which is said to be the game changer for Malaysia. They talk about the future is tomorrow, but really the future is now, accelerated by, of course, the pandemic. And we've seen that this is, of course, the new norm for businesses, entrepreneurs, everyday people as well. Before the break, we talked about the blueprint being comprehensive and inclusive, Doctor. Yeah. Perhaps you could once again reiterate some of those points and really tell us what the rakyat can expect from the blueprint. As you said during the break as well, that it is recursive and would probably keep having to go back to the table as trends and more technology increases. You'll need to, replan or redesign the blueprint.
Absolutely. So I said, we started our journey down during 1937. Today we're in 2021, so we probably need a new plan moving to for the next 10 years. Okay, technology moves so fast; it changes practically about every 6 months. Therefore, you and I wouldn't know what 10 years will look like, but you have a best guess today, and therefore you come back to the plan, okay, where you then do recursive planning. Okay, you start from point A, you reach a point, you may not reach point B yet, things may change, but you will still head towards point B, but probably not taking the same route. Okay, so if you want, it's like a step ladder kind of thing, and then you've got the 10 years. So that is what the blueprint allows us to do. Okay, number one. And for individuals like us, what's in it for us? Okay, what's in it for us is that if you talk about jobs, there will be new jobs, new skills. Therefore, new skills comes with premium. That will then lead to a higher salary. So a higher income per capita would be one. Two, you'll see that there will probably be a reduction in blue-collar jobs. Okay, there'll be more white-collar jobs. And eventually, there'll be a blurring between white-collar and blue-collar. You wouldn't know what's the difference. Okay, what's important is that, end in mind, a higher income, okay, for all of us. Opportunity to work, whether we actually have a permanent job, or you may have a job that you can do at your own time, at your own pace. Yet it is still enough for you to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle. Again, lifestyle differs from a person to person, right? So this is sort of the things that with a digital economy allows you to do a lot of this stuff that you probably read in books, you hear, you watch movies, and you say, hey, what's next? But I think the game changer in this is that we are trying to drive local companies to be global companies. Number two, we want to be a nation of creators as opposed to a nation of users. Okay? But again, when you talk about creators, it need not necessarily mean that we need to create to the smallest element in digital space. You can actually create value and IP at various levels. So somebody might be good, you create a chip. So there's an IP in the chip. Yep. Somebody may be able to create a service out of using that chip. That's also IP. Okay, so again, it allows us to do many things. But I think directionally, it's about owning the IP, and with that IP, you actually multiply. It's just like a singer. I make a hit song, okay, and I don't have to sing for the rest of my life, but I still earn income.
One-hit wonders.
One-hit wonders, but still.
We know quite a few of those.
Yep.
Let's talk about cost. Over the next 5 years, the plan will cost, or rather a total of 21 billion ringgit will be invested. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I wouldn't say that that's a cost. It's actually an investment. Okay, the 21 billion that you talked about is only for the portion about fiberization and making 4G highly available. Okay, I explained before that 21 billion, 60% will come from the private sector and 40% will come from the government via the Universal Service Provider Fund. It's also talked about the 5G infrastructure that would see an investment of 15 billion. Okay, and that 15 billion will actually come from the private sector, although it is actually worked through a government-owned special purpose vehicle. And I'm sure you've also caught the other amount that was also cited, another 12 to 15 billion for the hyperscale data centers and cloud service providers. And it had been announced that there will be 4 key players who would actually be investing, namely the big guys like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and our local brother called Telekom Malaysia. Okay, so imagine. And then don't forget, there's also some amount of investment made into submarine cables.
Well, Doctor, it seems that there's a lot of opportunity present, or opportunities are impending. It's on the way. Yeah. But how can we, viewers, people like me, have access to those opportunities?
Actually, the opportunity is just, I've just spoken about the infrastructure opportunity. Okay, but when you look at the whole big picture, you've got to be infrastructure. Let me just give you a simple analogy. You're building a highway. Okay, so the builder of the highway itself is an opportunity. Then you've got the R&R. Okay, the R&R is another opportunity. Then at the exchanges, you get hit into towns. The towns flourish. That's another level of opportunity. Okay, so when you talk about opportunity, I keep going back to infrastructure, but in reality, the blueprint provides more than opportunities.
Multiple facets.
So it's all over. Okay, and as I said, but the first thing first, in all things, foundation must be right, and that is why PM announced the first thing he's mentioned was about Jendela, because that's getting fiberization across the country, 4G highly available. Then we move on to the 5G, which then gives us a different experience, if you want, and then it goes on, it builds up, and every vertical, and agriculture, manufacturing, oil and gas, there are also opportunities within that.
Jendela, truly the window to our future and to the highway that will connect us to the world of digital, the opportunities that lay ahead, and a brighter future for each and every Malaysian as well. On that note, we take a quick break. When we come back, more right here on the MyDigital Blueprint on the nation, Jendela.
Meili is a university student in Kuala Lumpur. She needs to visit her grandmother in her hometown next week. However, Meili has an exam scheduled at the same time. She plans to revise her lessons during the trip through online learning via video. Meili is worried about unstable internet access while travelling. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and 4G coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases. The 3G network will be gradually terminated as the 4G network is expanded to give Malaysians access to high-speed mobile lines throughout the country. With Jendela, people like Meili can enjoy uninterrupted online services all the way back to her hometown. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economic progress.
You're watching The Nation, Jendela, and our topic for discussion today is the game changer for the nation, for our country, Malaysia, the MyDigital Blueprint. It was announced by the Prime Minister just under a week ago, and of course it serves as a national blueprint as we move into a more digitalized nation. Doctor, before the break we spoke about the cost, or as you say, the investment for it, but we also know that the Prime Minister announced a total of 15 billion will be invested in the course of the next 10 years for the implementation of 5G, and this will be done via what we know as a special purpose vehicle.
Yep.
What kind of impact do you foresee in the short term, in the near term?
In the short term is that you'll see the rollout being made faster, okay, number one. Number two, having a government special purpose vehicle is useful because it is less driven by profits, okay, as opposed to the market that's always driven by profits. And when you have that set of dynamics, invariably there will be digital divide, okay, which is just natural. Okay, it's nothing wrong with the market forces, but it does cause some social problems. So with the government-owned SPV, it allows to contain that risk. Second, having a government SPV allows the government to look at different models of providing the spectrum. Okay, instead of allowing for bidding, okay, yes, government gets a fair amount of money for that because that's a government asset for others to use. Here, the SPV will be the one using the spectrum at probably a fraction of a cost. Okay, they'll be paid over time. What does it mean to you and I? It means that the cost of building our network, there's no need for them to obtain any return on the cost of the spectrum because there's hardly any cost. You and I will not have to pay high prices for that. Okay, and as opposed to some of the comments made by the some of the analysts or rating agencies where they said, oh, you're giving to a special purpose vehicle for you to then auction to others. No, there's no such thing. Okay, it's actually providing to the special purpose vehicle who will then lay the network and offer it wholesale all the licenses out there.
What role does MCMC have in this?
What role do we have is that we will then regulate how the behavior of the SPV is. 2, we'll regulate the prices of the wholesale and make sure that access is equal, non-discriminatory, and there is no room for any monopolistic behavior. Okay, so that is a way that we will then guide and regulate how the whole market will then operate with regards to 5G.
So what sort of method or strategy is in place to safeguard, to ensure that the SPV continues to deliver high quality 5G network?
The moment they are licensed, first and foremost, they must be licensed, and they will be licensed. Okay? The moment you're licensed, you will have to comply to technical standards. Okay? And with technical standards comes the quality of service standards, which again they have to comply. And that is where we have the tools to regulate. Okay? Today, you and I may not feel it. Probably we've been a bit lenient with the current service providers, okay, allowing them to grow, okay, and people are complaining.
Oh, they have grown.
Yeah, they've grown so big. So now, we're kind of flexing it a bit more to penalize them. So from time to time, you see us penalizing the service providers for quality that they have not provided. But I'm sure we don't want that to happen in 5G. Okay, we want, as a regulator, we like to regulate for better things.
Which brings me to my next question. How ready is Malaysia for 5G development, deployment, and even usage?
For usage, most of the applications are largely in the industrial. Okay, for consumers, it's nothing more than faster internet on a mobile space. Okay, so are we ready? Yeah, we are voracious users of data. So we will say yes.
Born ready.
We are born ready. Okay, but the question is, that's vanilla. What's above it? Okay, so if it's a chicken and egg, you don't get the network, nothing gets innovated. All right. So if you try to innovate and wait for a network, again, it ain't gonna happen. So this is where we say, look, eventually something needs to give, and this approach is more of a supply-driven. Put the network out there, and then more things will then be innovated for greater use of the network.
Would you say that the blueprint or the plan overall is highly ambitious?
All blueprints must be ambitious, because if you're not ambitious enough, and you set you lowball your target if you want, you will either achieve the low target, or if you don't achieve, you only aim for the top of the tree. Okay, you need to aim for the sky. Okay, yes, it is ambitious, but we are putting a stake out, out there, and we are all chasing towards a stake. Worst case scenario, out of 10, you don't achieve 10, you achieve 8, but 8 is better than probably 0 that when you started. Okay, so we need to look at it in a way where we set higher standards, aspire to do better than what we think we could do, and you'll be surprised.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident and assured are you that this plan will see into fruition and completion?
For someone who has been involved in the plan, I would say how confident I am. I'm 100% confident. But there's always a risk in everything. Implementation is key. So therefore, we need to always keep our eye on the ball. Okay, make sure the speed is at the right speed at all times and running on the track at all times.
Well, there you have it, Malaysia. This is, of course, has been our discussion on the MyDigital blueprint, a promise into the future, not a peak, and also to recognize that the future is here, it is now. And the Jendela plan, along with the MyDigital blueprint, is that route for us to be connected and a route for a better future for all Malaysians. This is Jessie Chahal signing off on The Nation Jendela. Thanks for joining us. Keep it locked on to Bernama TV for more news and updates coming your way. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
I'm Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC. For the latest on the National Digital Network Plan, watch The Nation Jendela every Thursday only on Bernama TV.